Did you know that 44% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency right now? And at the same time, the average American spends about $161 a month on clothes? There might be an opportunity here. So I found an article on Forbes that said that 44% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency right now. 43% of people with student loan debt aren't paying off their debt. 38% of households have credit card debt, and 33% of adults have $0 saved for retirement. And I found those numbers really shocking. I never want to be in that situation, and unfortunately I have been. Up until about less than 2 years ago, I had $0 saved for retirement, and I'm in my 30s, not good. And I don't want this to happen to me, and I definitely don't want it to happen to you. And I definitely think that financial education and learning that as young as possible is really important. So I want to share what I've learned over the last couple of years with you so that you cannot be one of those people in those statistics right there. As bad as that may sound, there is some good news. And the good news is you can start right now to better manage your finances. And one of the areas where you can put some focus is in your wardrobe. Other statistics that I've found recently is that the average American spends about $161 a month on clothes. Now, some simple math. If you didn't buy clothes on average for 3 months and you just sacrifice 3 months, there you go. You've got yourself a $400 plus emergency fund that you can use to cover an emergency should, if, or when it comes up. And that's really awesome for anybody who feels like they're totally broke and they're not prepared for an emergency should it be coming your way. With that in mind, 3 months ago, I started tracking my clothes usage, my personal clothes, this, that, everything I wear. I put it into an Excel spreadsheet and I started tracking it every single day. And one of the main reasons for that is I was thinking about the 80-20 rule, and I read that we wear, 80% of our clothes 20% of the time? No, the other way. 20% of our clothes 80% of the time, and I read it. I quite frankly didn't believe it. I was really skeptical, so I looked for some information online and I couldn't find the stats that I was looking for, so I decided to do it for myself, on myself, and share the results with the world, and I'll get to those in a second. But the real reason I did it is because people spend a lot of money on clothes, and I've definitely spent some money on clothes, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, right? We need clothes to survive, to protect us against the elements, and that's okay. But sometimes it goes a little bit too far, and my suspicion is that, myself included, everybody has too much clothes already, and that by better managing your wardrobe, you can save some money and better your finances along the way. Now, what did I discover in my study? Well, first, I have 96 articles of clothing. That's it, only 96, right? It might sound like a lot to some, it may sound like absolutely nothing to other people, but that's what I have. And of those 96 articles of clothing, I wear on average about 11 different things every single day. So I wear more than 10% of my entire wardrobe on any given day. Pretty wild. So, I don't have a lot of clothes, and some of that has to do with me having traveled a lot and intentionally being frugal when it comes to my wardrobe already. But despite all of that, in the first month of tracking this, I wore 20% of my clothes 70.21% of the time. In just the second month, I wore 20% of my clothes 67.83% of the time. And in the third month, I wore 20% of my clothes 66.67% of the time. So, even with a small wardrobe, and even with this topic on my mind and thinking about it, I still wear 20% of my clothes most of the time, which means even for me, I probably have more than enough clothes than I already need. Now, cumulatively, over the course of 3 months, I wore 20% of my clothes 63.34% of the time. Now, that is a reasonably small sample size. It's only 3 months. It's basically one season, but we can see that I am wearing a small percentage of my clothes quite frequently. And imagine your wardrobe. You probably have a lot more clothes than I do. If you've been living in any place for an extended period of time, I'm sure that you have accumulated an impressive collection of clothes and a nice wardrobe, whereas I've been dumping things as I've been going. So if you have more than 100 articles of clothing and 20 t-shirts and tons of pairs of pants, your 80-20 number might be surprisingly high, and I'd encourage you to do a test and see what that number is. I've also been tracking the percentage of the clothes that I wear, just in total, forget 80-20, but just of the 96 things that I own, what percentage do I wear? And in the first month, I wore about 54%, the second month about 55%, the third month about 57%, so pretty consistent. But over time, cumulatively, that number's been increasing, and over a 3-month period, I've worn 71.88% of all my clothes. So even though I don't have a lot, I am at least using it pretty well. And fall and winter's coming, so I have some winter clothes and sweaters and jackets that need to get unboxed and used. And I suspect that over the course of a full year, I'll be using my clothes pretty well. And I still suspect that my 80-20 number will be pretty high, meaning that even though I'm using all my clothes, I could probably even cut back as well and do perfectly fine. Over the last 3 months, I also have not bought or received a single article of clothing, no socks, no underpants, no gifts, no nothing. And the world keeps spinning, my life is still good, nothing drastic has happened, which leads me to believe that if I can do it, you can probably do it too, right? So sacrifice, quote unquote sacrifice, 3 months, save up over $400, add that to your emergency fund, and at the very least, by managing your wardrobe this way, you can help better manage your finances. Now for you budgeters out there, they say that about 5% of your after-tax take-home income should be put towards clothes as like a good amount, decent amount. Anything more than that is probably in excess. Anything less than that, even better. And just to give you a perspective, $161, right? If that's the average that the average American spends on clothes per month, they would need to be bringing home after taxes about $3,200 every single month to justify spending that much on clothes. Now, if that's how much money you're bringing home after taxes, as far as budgeting goes, you're probably doing okay. If you make less than that, odds are you're spending too much on clothes, and if you make more than that, good for you, congratulations, you're probably, on the right track. I did make a chart comparing the different after-tax incomes with the 5% budget rule for clothing. If you want to check that out, you can get it on the article I wrote about this topic and on my website, fatbrokestupid.com. You can find it there along with a bunch of other information. I also made an Excel spreadsheet for my own personal 80-20 experiment, and I made a template one which you can use for yourself if you'd like to do this experiment and learn more about your clothing usage to help you better manage your money and see if you have too much clothes already. Now, big important question is, why do we spend so much money on clothes? Well, I've written about that in my article, and you can get all that information on my website. And I'm going to cover this in much more detail in the next video. So if you're interested, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell and get that monthly clothes update, as well as all of the other experiments and challenges and topics that I'm creating videos about. I'm doing this for me so that I won't be fat, broke, and stupid forever moving forward. And I'm also doing it to share what I learned with you. And I hope you found it helpful, entertaining, useful, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.